I just finished my morning class. I'm now on the way to Chesson for shopping. In Chesson, I found an advertisement in Christian Dior makeup. This is a perfume advertisement which records a girl who wears low-cut clothes and play with water. Suddenly, male gaze crosses my mind. So I back home and work on the male gaze, and I want to try to make my understanding of the male gaze, and I will show you after. So I made a PowerPoint to show you what is male gaze. Male gaze was developed by the Laura Mulvey in 1975. She believed that the majority of the films are viewed from the perspective of a heterosexual male, even by the women. Mulvey states that in film, women are typically the objects rather than the possessors of gaze because the control of the object control of the camera comes from the factors such as the assumptions of heterosexual men as the default target audience for most film genres. While this was truer in the time it was written, when Hollywood protagonists were overwhelmingly male, the base concept of men as watchers and women as watched still applies today, despite the growing numbers of films targeted toward women and that feature female protagonists. And so, what is gaze? How are women represented in the media, and how are women looks like, and how the man expected to respond to women in the media? Gaze in this phrase is the parent concept. Gaze can be known as how an audience views the people represented. It is usually not fair that representation in male and female. Here are some female features of the male gaze. Here are some features of the male gaze. The first one is the camera lingers on the curves of the female body. And the second one is events which occur to women are presented largely in the text of men's reaction to this event. And thirdly is relegates women to the state of the objects. And finally, the woman viewer must experience the narrative secondarily by identification with the male. Finally, in this advertisement, the woman functions as both erotic objects for the characters within the screen stories and erotic objects for the audience within the auditorium, which means the objects of the fantasy. So, if I want to ask you about this advertisement talking about, or I want to know what the advertisement advertise, probably I cannot get the answer because you're like the camera lingers on the curves of the female body. The advertisements use the male gaze in our daily life to attract the attention.